2021 gardening season is slowly coming to an end. And so this past weekend, what I've been doing is spending a lot of time cleaning up this garden space and getting it ready for next year. The first order of business today is to harvest a lot of my tomatoes, pretty much all of what I have left. I'm also going to be harvesting any peppers that I have that look like they're super ripe, and also beans. The bean plants are kind of past their prime, so I'm going to go ahead and pull those out. Tomato plants also are past their prime, so those are going to get pulled out. The peppers will last for several more weeks, so those are going to get to stay. I also have some okra that gets to stay and some sweet potatoes. This area right here is where I used to have my potatoes. You can see that I have some weeds growing in this area, so I'm going to pull up as much as I can. Then I'll have Alex do a light till in this area, and I'm going to plant some clover. The idea with planting the clover is that it will add nitrogen back into the soil, and so that next spring when we go to plant in this area, there's a lot of nutrients that have been added back. Yesterday I filled this wheelbarrow with compost from our compost bin. The soil is so rich. It's gonna be beautiful for our plants next year. So once I pull out the plants, I'm putting the compost on top. I'm actually going to experiment in some of these other beds with pulling up the plants, putting down some grass clippings, and then putting down the compost. Yesterday I mowed in this area, so I will rake up some of those grass clippings and put them in the beds. Typically, whenever I find rotten tomatoes in my garden, I put them in a bucket and I toss them into the woods, because I don't really want a ton of volunteer plants showing up in my garden next year. So I just pull them out and put them into the woods. And yesterday I started having some fun, and if you see that hole in the tree, that portion of the tree is dead. I was trying to throw the tomatoes into the hole, and you may not believe me, but on my first try I got it in. So we're gonna see if I have that same kind of luck right now. All right. Oh no, that was so bad. Let me try one more. Okay, here's my bucket of gross tomatoes, so I'm gonna try one more. Ew, so gross. I swear I got it yesterday. Oh, so close. Oh, so close. I guess I'll have to try again some later time. The reason I'm adding grass clippings directly on top of the straw is because I want to create an environment where both of those things can decompose over the next 6 to 9 months where I'm not planting in the beds. Whenever you are starting a compost bin, you need two things. You need brown material and green material. Brown material being anything that is dry, so think about leaves, straw, pine shavings. Those are all dry materials and they provide carbon. Your green materials are things that are wet, such as grass clippings, food scraps, any weeds that you pull that have not gone to seed. Those are all considered to be green materials, and they provide nitrogen back into your soil. So when you have a combination of both green and brown material, you now have an environment where the microorganisms can thrive and help you break down that material faster. That's kind of what I'm trying to create in my garden bed. It worked last year. Last year I had regular mulch on the top of my garden bed, and I mixed in some grass clippings, and then by springtime most of that stuff had broken down and was soil. So I'm going to do it a little bit different this year, where now I have straw as my mulch. I'm putting grass clippings on top of that, and then I'm gonna put compost on top of that. I'm hoping by bringing in some compost, I invite some microorganisms from my compost bin into my garden beds, and they will help me decompose this stuff even quicker. Typically in our garden in the spring, we purchase compost to put in our garden beds because the compost that our compost bin produces is just not enough. But I'm trying to work on different ways where I can supplement and figure out how to add nutrients back into my soil starting in the fall, and then hopefully in the springtime my plants will thrive without adding a lot of compost, where I don't have to purchase it anymore. You can also really put a lot of focus on creating your own compost by harvesting all of your grass clippings and by harvesting all of the leaves that fall on the property, but that's a lot of work, and so I figured this is a good alternative way to get some nutrients back into the soil with maybe 2 days worth of work. So I have finished one of the beds. I wanted to just show you some of my tomato harvest. So what I did is I harvested not only the ripe tomatoes, but anything that was green. I had a lot of success last year letting some of the green tomatoes ripen inside. I had a laundry basket full of these tomatoes and I put it in our basement, and they were ripening all the way up to December. So I'm gonna do that again this year. This year we don't have as many green tomatoes, but I'll take the ones that we have. Also, I wanted to show you all of this string that's hanging here is the string that I use to tie up my plants to the trellis and to kind of keep them secure. This string I plan to use again next year. I try to be as resourceful as possible and reuse anything that I can. So when I tie my knots, I tie it so that I can easily untie them and so that I can use them again next year. So this is pretty funny. While Alex was flying the drone, he felt something fall on his shoulder. It was a spotted lanternfly. So he thought he killed it. He brought it over to me to show me, and then while he was showing me, I pointed out that it was in fact not dead, and so he threw it on the ground and stomped on it. And then at that point we realized we got it all on camera. If you see any spotted lanternflies in your area, make sure to report them to the Department of Agriculture. They are tracking their location. They are an invasive species and they are extremely prevalent in southeastern Pennsylvania right now. So we did end up reporting this sighting. Well, I didn't get as much of the garden ready as I wanted to today, but it's because we have so much green still in the garden. We decided to keep up a couple of the tomato plants as well as a couple of the bean plants because they are still producing or still ripening. So those are staying in the garden. I'll have to come back in a month or so and do the same thing to some of these other garden beds as I did to a couple of them today. We did get the clover planted and I'm going to do my best to keep it moist so that some of those seeds germinate. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to click the thumbs up. Also consider subscribing to our channel and make sure to click the bell so that you get notifications when our videos go live. We really appreciate you watching our channel, and if you have any tips or suggestions on how to better prep our garden for the next spring, definitely let us know. We're always open to different ideas and we love hearing about what other people do as well. So thanks again, and I'll see you next time.